Devil May Cry music can save your life. Yeah, I know. That sounds like the kind of YouTube hyperbole you're used to. And in some ways, it is, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Anger is an emotion we all know too well. Left unchecked, it can be destructive, not just to those around you, but to yourself. But anger isn't just chaos, it's power. A force that, when channeled properly, can lead to growth. And that's where the music comes in, effectively channeling that anger. It doesn't just let you release it, it helps you understand it. By being able to master emotion, not by suppressing it, but by honestly understanding it, is a key part of emotional regulation. And that can make all the difference. Music alone won't save you, but the way it makes you reflect on your emotions just might. Hear me out. We often hear about music as a way to relax and relieve stress, but when it comes to extreme genres like heavy metal and rock, there's a long-standing misconception that they do the opposite. When you think of stress relief, you're probably more likely to picture Lo-Fi Girl than Dante shredding on Nevan. These genres have been labeled as dangerous, reinforcing the outdated belief that aggressive music fuels aggressive behavior. Studies show that rather than intensifying negative emotions, extreme genres can actually help process them in a healthy way, if the listener enjoys the genre. That's a big if, because the same study notes that people who don't like this music tend to feel more uneasy when listening to it. So individual differences definitely matter here, but if you do find yourself drawn to extreme music, it doesn't mean you're inherently aggressive. In fact, it might actually mean you're better off. The physiological effects of anger are well documented. Your muscles tense up, your heart rate rises, and your body gets a surge of adrenaline, priming you for action. But here's where music comes in. Heavy, chaotic, and emotionally charged tracks like Subhuman or Bury the Light can actually sync up with this arousal state. Instead of suppressing emotions or letting them spiral out of control, this kind of music provides a controlled emotional release. This is extreme music's version of musical entrainment, where your internal rhythm aligns with external beats. When you nod your head, tap your foot, or go all out in a headbanging session, you're physically channeling the energy that anger brings. This helps regulate emotions rather than letting them fester. That's why so many people feel a cathartic release after blasting their favorite heavy tracks. This is especially relevant for people who have dealt with some form of trauma. Of course, trauma isn't a prerequisite to enjoy this music. It just highlights one of its unique aspects. But music isn't just about sound, it's about meaning. The underlying themes in extreme music, combined with its intensity, can resonate deeply with people facing harsh realities. That's why this genre isn't just an outlet, it's a form of emotional validation. And this is where Devil May Cry's themes truly shine. Each character's theme song embodies their struggles, emotions, and personal battles. Dante's defiant swagger in Subhuman, Vergil's obsession with power in Bury the Light, Nero's frustration and resolve in Devil Trigger. These songs don't just pump you up, they make you feel seen. Devil May Cry music can save your life, not in some dramatic fashion, but in a real, preventative psychological sense. If you're drawn to extreme music, it can be the barrier that keeps negativity from eroding your mind and body. When emotions like anger, frustration, and grief threaten to consume you, this music gives them form, allowing you to feel them without letting them take control. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering it. Full transparency, all the science we just discussed comes from a secondary source. That means it's an article put together by someone else who reviewed primary sources, actual psychological studies. The article cites all the primary sources, so I figured it's a good compromise because I'm not paying for 20 different subscriptions to access them directly. Take that for what you will. When life hits you with extreme emotions, extreme music can be a surprisingly effective way to process them. While it's no replacement for professional therapy, its role in emotional regulation is worth noting. And considering everything the Sparta family has been through, it's safe to say they'd find some solace in their own themes. There have been plenty of songs associated with these characters throughout the series' history, but I'd like to focus on the recent additions to our Devil Hunting playlist. Subhuman, an intense battle anthem that evokes intimidation with its aggressive tone. The song kicks off by hinting at an internal conflict as Dante faces yet another apocalyptic threat. I mean, at this point, how many has he stopped? 4? Just counting the games alone? But something about this one feels different. As I stare into the eye of the coming apocalypse, I see them reaching for my soul. This is not just another battle. This is personal. Then comes the real contrast. I cannot erupt. I must control. I cannot erupt. I must explode. Dante is the definition of nonchalant, always smirking in the face of danger, disrespecting demons twice his size as he cuts them down. But this suggests that beneath the constant showboating and bravado, something is bubbling under the surface. Something demanding to be set free. What is he trying so hard to contain? And why does it feel like, despite his control, an explosion is inevitable? The mind tries to sink me deeper. Another clue to Dante's internal conflict, his own thoughts pulling him down, making him feel something he'd rather not. Meanwhile, the evil tries to turn me around. I like to imagine this literally. Dante has his back turned to the evil, but it's trying to make him face it. If this were just another demon, there wouldn't be any convincing. After all, later in the same verse, he's burying them 6 feet underground. So this is a different kind of evil. It has to be his demonic heritage. Dante rejected his demon side, at one point refusing to acknowledge his father and swearing to kill every last one of them. It's no surprise he'd rather not acknowledge that part of himself. His rejection comes from his human side, the part that felt the pain of loss. It's the side he cherishes most, yet it's also the source of his deepest grief. Funny, isn't it? And yet, every time the world is on the brink of destruction, he's pushed to embrace his demon half to survive. This constant push and pull, the refusal and inevitability, is the core of his struggle. The same internal battle alluded to earlier in the intro. He rejects the devil within while shouting at the devils outside. The hours trapped in window panes. First, I think of the literal window panes of a house, and in Devil May Cry, one house stands out. Dante's childhood home. The night his family was slaughtered, he hid there, forced to hear the structure collapsing around him and his mother's screams. Trapped within the walls of the only place he had ever called home, it was his first real exposure to the nightmare he's been fighting ever since. Those hours spent waiting, helplessly paralyzed by fear, left a mark that lingers to this day. Futile eyes peer deep. Whose eyes? The mocking tone suggests demons, staring into the house, searching for him, searching for what mattered to him, for something to exploit. Imagine someone standing outside your window, peering in, watching. Creepy, unsettling, but in this case, malicious. And yet, Dante still taunts them, calling their eyes futile, as if their search is meaningless, as if knowing this piece of him doesn't grant them the power they think it does. There's also one more figure in Devil May Cry tied to the imagery of eyes. Mundus, the demon emperor who manifests as 3 glowing orbs, the same Mundus who orchestrated the attack on Dante's childhood home. Whether this line refers to him or to the faceless demons who hunted him that night, the meaning remains the same. Dante has spent his life defying the gaze of the abyss. The hurt nests right in, haunting thoughts of this crumbling world. This expands his pain beyond himself. The hurt that has nested within is personal, what he suffered, but the haunting thoughts are what comes next. the realization that others are suffering, just like he did. The world is full of people who don't even know what's hunting them. This is why he fights, why he hunts devils. The hurt has taken root inside him, but rather than let it consume him, he wields it. Thus leading us to the chorus, the intense, recurring chant. An interesting choice of words meant to empower Dante. You cannot kill me. I am Omega, the last thing his enemies will ever see. It's a bold declaration, a promise of their inevitable demise. But then there's the contrast. I am subhuman. It's a self-deprecating statement, yet one that strengthens him in this context. To be subhuman is to be beneath humanity, an insult in every sense. But for Dante, it's a source of power. His human half, the part that feels, that suffers, is what makes him superior to the demons he faces. It's that same humanity, though, that makes him feel out of place. He's not fully human, but he's not a demon either. This constant internal battle of rejection and reliance on what makes him human is what drives Dante. I must not forget that I have bled. Dante clings to his humanity here. He has bled. He has suffered. Despite everything, he's still human. Felt no respect for the demons in my head. Something saved me, put me out of my destiny, and dropped me safely in this hell. Probably the most difficult set of lines to interpret here, but we'll take it one at a time. Felt no respect for the demons in my head. This phrase usually is used to refer to psychological or mental health issues, so I think this line can refer to his self-imposed isolation. Dante has spent years keeping people at a distance. He doesn't really spend much time with people outside of his job, even for those he considers his closest relationships. He's avoided romantic relationships, indulging only in pizza or strawberry sundaes. He doesn't take care of himself physically nor socially. And these examples are after he made connections with people like Trish and Lady. This detachment could be seen as a coping mechanism, a way to keep the demons of his past and his own internal struggles at bay. Before he made those connections, Dante may have been even more distant, which, although understandable, is contradictory to his goal. If you're going to defend humanity, you should remember the reasons why, and the only way to do that is to live. Something saved me, put me out of my destiny, and dropped me safely in this hell. If we assume Dante is clinging to his humanity, something saved me is likely referring to a key moment in his life, a shift in perspective, or a deep connection that allowed him to face his burdens. Perhaps this is the moment when he allowed himself to genuinely connect with someone else, breaking through his isolation. Dante and Lady are probably the only people in the world that can empathize with each other, a real human connection that reminded him a devil may cry. He is allowed to feel human and cherish people. This connection drops him safely in this hell, giving him motivation to keep fighting, an indulgence that overcomes the grief, allowing him to navigate the hellish life he leads and reminding him of his reason to fight. I believe the rest of this verse evokes Dante's Devil Trigger, his dark gift that manifests when he unleashes his full power. It's seared right past me. The eyes are flashing. These lines remind me of how his body transforms, the form searing onto his flesh and his eyes glow. This is Dante's moment of empowerment that we've seen each time he's had to channel his demonic heritage when the stakes are high. His ability to settle up and face the threats in front of him is grounded in the humanity he's managed to preserve. This expression of power, following the reminder we went through in the earlier lines, implies that this is his anchor in the storm. Reminding himself of that pivotal moment gives himself permission to wield the monumental powers we see in the game. And lastly, the bridge. By this point in the song, Dante has channeled his pain, his motivation, and his literal demonic powers. I feel the devil in me. Let me out. we're coming right for you. Hellbound. This is a direct threat. Dante has fully aligned with his inner demon, and together they will chase you down, dragging you through the depths of hell itself. There's no turning back for Dante at this point. The repetition of "let me out" emphasizes that this is Dante unleashing everything, fully embracing his dark power. He allows it one more time to chase down those who stand in his way, unrelenting in his pursuit. I believe Subhuman reflects a valiant defender of humanity who, for better or worse, denies himself the right to live. Some may dismiss his demeanor as edgy or a fierce independence, but if Dante sees himself as subhuman, it suggests that part of him feels unworthy of fully embracing human experiences. Yet, there's still hope in this internal conflict. By keeping his humanity in mind, he tempers the fear that comes with fully unleashing his powers.
Slay all.
Bury the Light tells a story through a declaration of power, charting Vergil's relentless pursuit of strength and the consequences of his obsession. Casey Edwards is a goat who already did a breakdown of his lyrics in a live stream, but I'd like to give it a shot myself and see how much of the artist's vision I can gather before looking it up. The song begins with an expression of weakness, mirroring Vergil's origins. Avoiding weakness has been the defining struggle of his life, but this opening holds a double meaning. First, it paints a vivid picture of his state at the beginning of Devil May Cry 5. Condemned, falling weak on my knees, summon the strength of mayhem. This recalls Vergil at his lowest point, collapsing on the brink of death, only to use Yamato to split himself in two, separating man from demon, and summoning Urizen, a being of unchecked chaos and strength. The second meaning is a deeper, more symbolic one. Immortal temptation takes over my mind, condemned. The temptation to seek power has always consumed Vergil, driving him forward because it is his way of coping with his past trauma. He believes that absolute strength is the only way to ensure he never feels helpless again. This belief has grown into an obsession, one he is willing to destroy the world for, and yet, by constantly chasing power, he condemns himself to an endless cycle of violence. The very thing he seeks to escape, helplessness, only tightens its grip on him through his actions. Still, he continues the cycle, summoning the strength of mayhem once more, manifesting Urizen in his ruthless pursuit of power. This never-ending pursuit is where Vergil believes he thrives. Vergil declares himself a destructive force. I am the storm that is approaching, provoking black clouds in isolation. He creates apocalyptic events, tearing through everything and everyone around him. But storms don't just destroy, they also obscure. Black clouds conceal whatever lies within, symbolizing how his power isolates his vulnerable core. Vergil elevates himself to something beyond human comprehension, a force of nature that demands not understanding, but respect. His pride in this path comes from his identification with his demonic heritage. I am reclaimer of my name. Born in flames, I have been blessed. My family crest is a demon of death. The flames call back to the pivotal moment of his childhood, the burning of his family home. This is where he learned what he believes to be the ultimate truth. Might controls everything. In this moment of devastation, Vergil wasn't just a victim. He saw himself as reborn, reforged in fire. When he reclaims his name, he isn't thinking of his human side. He aligns himself with Sparta, not as a father, but as a legacy of power. To him, his only true family is that of demons, not weak, fragile humans. Forsaken, I am awakened. His awakening came when he felt abandoned by his human family in his moment of need. No human hand reached for him. Only Yamato, Sparta's devil arm, was there for him. It was his lifeline, his proof that strength is the only thing he can rely on. Rising from the ashes, he sheds his past weaknesses like a phoenix. But unlike the typical image of rebirth, he is dark divine, the very part of himself that the world may see as evil. His demonic nature is what he considers sacred. Yet, this path inevitably leads him to descending misery. No matter how powerful he becomes, there will always be a champion of humanity standing against him. His fate isn't just metaphorical, it's literal. His blind pursuit of power made him descend further into hell, where he was crushed by Mundus, enslaved and stripped of his autonomy. Even after Mundus's defeat, that experience haunts him. As for destiny chasing time, I believe someone else got it spot on. Instead of waiting for his ascension, Vergil actively hunts it down. As user Iloiv, I think, on Genius.com interpreted, Vergil believes his destiny is to surpass Sparta and become the most powerful being. Yet he doesn't simply trust fate to grant him power, he forces its hand. He sought the Force Edge in DMC3 and later pursued the Clyfoth's fruit to accelerate his destiny. But in chasing his own legend, Vergil ensures that his pursuit never ends. No amount of power will ever be enough. The topic of fate is relevant beyond just Vergil's obsession as well. Inherit the nightmare, surrounded by fate. This line is a literal reference. Vergil's nightmares are his demon familiars, the remnants of his time as Mundus's puppet. Memories of this time still haunt him like recurring nightmares. But the nightmare is inherited in another sense. This suffering began long before Vergil was born. Sparta's actions are what impacted the realms, and Vergil, like Dante, bears the weight of their father's sins. Thus, Vergil inherits Mundus's ire and is given a nightmarish experience. This inheritance continues into the next lines. Surrounded by fate, can't run away. He is hunted not for who he is, but for the blood that runs through his veins. He was marked from birth, and that fate follows him. He can't run from these demons. Keep walking the line between the light led astray. I have a more hopeful interpretation here that aligns with insights we've gathered through V. We've seen that beneath his cold exterior, Vergil's motivations, ironically enough, are deeply human. At his core, he is still the wounded child who never had the chance to heal. Walking the line between the light. There have been moments, perhaps even brief ones, where a different path could have been possible. The potential for change was there, but in the end, his relentless pursuit of power always pulls him away. He is led astray, not because he was born a monster, but because he convinced himself that strength was the only answer. Through vacant halls I won't surrender. I think these words carry layered meanings. On one level, they could reference the halls of Fortuna's castle, a subtle nod to Devil May Cry 4 and its main theme, never surrender. But beyond the literal, this line encapsulates Vergil's unyielding nature. He refuses to surrender, not just in battle, but in his ceaseless pursuit of power. He will travel far and wide for his goal. The truth revealed in eyes of ember, we fight through fire and ice forever. This line captures one of the series' core dynamics, Dante and Vergil's eternal clash. Their devil triggers give them eyes that burn like embers, and the imagery of fire and ice mirrors their red and blue color schemes. But their battles are also a war of ideologies. For Vergil, power is survival. For Dante, humanity is strength. And for them, truth is only revealed through combat, the one language they both understand best. Two souls, once lost, and now they remember. This line can be interpreted in two ways. First, if it continues to represent Dante and Vergil, two brothers who once believed each other lost, only to reunite and reignite their clash. In doing so, they remember their reason for fighting, but also force each other to remember the half of themselves they've tried to reject. But it could also speak to Vergil's fractured self. After splitting into V and Urizen, he was reduced to two incomplete halves, each embodying only part of his identity. Neither could fully embody Vergil's memory. Only when reunited is Vergil's identity complete. We then return to the chorus, but with some new additions. Disappear into the night, lost shadows left behind. This could reference Vergil's ending in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, where he vanishes into the night, leaving only the shadow of his devil trigger behind. But more than that, it also speaks to how Vergil operates, always moving, never setting roots. Even in Fortuna, where at least he showed interest in someone, wasn't enough to hold him back. His obsession with power constantly pulls him forward, chasing what he believes is rightfully his. Obsession's pulling me, fading. I've come to take what's mine. Even as his body deteriorates, fading, his drive remains unshaken. Just ask Nero. Lurking in the shadows under veil of night, constellations of blood pirouette, dancing through the graves of those who stand at my feet. This is such a beautiful way to capture a common scene for Vergil, cutting down his enemies with both precision and grace. His fighting style is elegant, built on speed, control, and efficiency. He moves through battle as if tracing a constellation, leaving behind a flurry of slashes like shining stars in the dark. Dreams of the Black Throne I keep on repeat. A direct reference to the Black Throne Urizen sits on, and possibly the more humble version at the top of the Qliphoth. Metaphorically, it reflects Vergil's singular motivation, an obsession he replays over and over in his mind. Power. A derelict of dark, summoned from the ashes, the puppet master congregates all the masses, pulling strings, twisting minds as blades hit. You want this power? Then come try and take it. A derelict of dark perfectly describes Vergil's state at the start of Devil May Cry 5. A man reduced to a shell of himself, barely clinging to life. Summoned from the ashes continues the theme of rebirth, this time marking his return, albeit on the brink of death. The puppet master immediately calls to mind Mundus, the demon king who once controlled Vergil and commands legions of demons. In this reading, the bridge could be recounting Vergil's battle against Mundus, a bold declaration that his power is his own, and anyone who wants it must take it by force. Of course, that last line could also directly reference his challenge to Dante, but you know me, I live for the symbolism. Beyond the tree, fire burns. This likely refers to Vergil watching his family home burn from a distance, as he was separated from his mother and brother at the time. Secret love. This could have multiple meanings. It might refer to Sparta and Eva's relationship. Though not necessarily secret, it was an unusual pairing, perhaps one best kept from certain individuals. After all, that knowledge was exploited to bring about the collapse of their family. And after looking it up, this section is actually a reference to The Sick Rose, a poem by William Blake. Fitting, since Vergil is a fan of his work. That's really cool! Secret love and crimson joy are lines from the poem, which describes an intimate encounter that leads to a destroyed life. With that context, the rest of the lines take on a more tragic weight. Secret love, bloodline yearns, dark minds embrace, crimson joy. If this is about Sparta and Eva, then their love ultimately led to Eva's death, and the suffering of their children. But another interpretation is Vergil's own relationship with Nero's mother. We know little about her, only that she was rumored to be a prostitute, a claim spread by the children who bullied Nero. Kids can have cruel imaginations, but it's not a stretch to assume they heard this rumor from somewhere. Whether true or not, she abandoned Nero, and we don't know why. One possibility is that she wasn't ready to be a mother. In this reading, the secret love could be Vergil's desires leading to consequences for the woman he was with, much like Sparta before him. And finally, the haunting question: does your dim heart heal or destroy? This is a turning point for Vergil, forcing him to confront the impact of his past and his choices. If the lines before reflect Sparta and Eva, then this could be about Vergil as a child, dedicating himself to power as a means of destruction. If they reflect his own past relationship, then it was still a moment of decision, a chance to embrace connection or to walk away. And Vergil, true to his nature, chose to continue his pursuit of power, denying himself a chance to heal. All of this culminates in the song's final lines. Bury the light deep within. Cast aside, there's no coming home. We're burning chaos in the wind, drifting in the ocean, all alone. Bury the Light tells the story of a man who believes the only way to hold himself together is to become the storm. His relationship with power is both his salvation and his curse, self-imposed, yet something he thrives in. To bury the light is to suppress the pain, the past, and anything that might make him hesitate. Chaos becomes his armor, his shield against weakness, isolating himself as he creates his destiny. Crimson Cloud reflects the brutal honesty of Vergil's past. These opening lines capture the defining moments of Vergil's downfall. Savior refers to Dante, the brother who ultimately stands against him and acts as the savior to humanity. Bloodstain is the inevitable violence between them, the battles that carved their separate paths. Hellfire represents Vergil's time in hell, while Shadow could reference multiple things: the literal demon familiar known as Shadow, or the lingering nightmares of his servitude to Mundus. These familiars are the discarded nightmares of this time in his life. It just makes more sense for this to have more symbolic weight rather than focusing on just one familiar. V himself is a manifestation of these traumas, Vergil's discarded humanity desperate to cling to life. He is aware of how Vergil's pursuit of peace is ultimately a contradiction, much like the phrase, heaven on a landslide. If heaven represents the tranquility he seeks, the landslide is the constant collapse of his own making. Every attempt at strength only brings more destruction, leaving him in a cycle of self-inflicted ruin. However, Visions of V makes me reconsider that last line. Spoilers ahead for a manga that ended 3 years ago. The story concludes with V embracing his inner child, strengthening Vergil's heart, and ultimately allowing for his resurrection. And in the final panel, we see V standing beneath the sky, dressed entirely in white. He looks up, then back at the reader. It makes me think of heaven. V isn't dead, he's returned to Vergil, which might have been his pursuit of heaven all along. Not an external paradise, but a second chance, a way to face his humanity with a new perspective. In that sense, the landslide wasn't just destruction, it was time running out, his body breaking down as he neared his end. Visions of V is so good, man, I cannot recommend it enough. If you have to ask, it's too late. V is on a timer, he cannot afford to wait, he has to take back his power. We see him keep himself alive by seeking out the nightmares that were also cast out of Vergil's body, forming pacts with them to stay alive. But there was one particular demon that refused. Phantom, still being the bitch that he was, claimed V was too weak of a host. While Griffin pleaded, trying to negotiate, V did not hesitate to fight him. He did not ask for Phantom to join him, it would be a waste of time, instead making a pact with Shadow, appealing to his will to survive. The line, somewhere in between, your character grace, might seem ambiguous at first, but it could be pointing to the space Vergil occupies between his past and his present. It's in this space, this liminal zone, where his true character is forged. Vergil's past, filled with trauma and loss, clashes with his present, shaped by a desperate pursuit of power. However, in this tension between his past mistakes and his current struggle, Vergil's real character emerges. This theme is central to V's arc. Each pact he makes with his demon familiars forces him to relive his traumatic memories under Mundus. But it's not just painful for the sake of suffering, it's necessary for his survival. V is forced to confront it, and through this confrontation, he begins to rebuild himself. The grace here could refer to the delicate balance he needs to find, his true character no longer being shaped by the wounds he bears, but by how he chooses to move forward with them. An eye on fantasy, touching nails. The first half is pretty obvious. V enjoys literature, it's what he does. Touching nails requires some more imagination. I personally think of nails scratching on a surface. If we think back to V's gameplay, he can read his book as his familiars fight. So this whole line could just be a reference to that. Sparks fly off of me and onto you. I think this continues a description of combat, more confidently. Sparks flying off him as he makes contact with enemies, initiating violence. Brothers in the dark, fight for your life. Devils in the dark, fight for your life. Brothers in the dark could be literal, Dante and Vergil, but I think it could also be more metaphorical. For example, the term brothers in arms suggests a kinship between everyone that is fighting on the same side. So this could be applicable to every devil hunter in the story. Devils in the dark is very literal, the other side of this battle, demons. The song then repeats, fight for your life. The theme is survival. Both sides get the same statement, fight for your life. Survival is all that matters to V because of his circumstances. It's interesting to see him lend the same command to the devils in the dark, not making one side appear to be good. An interesting detail. Devil in my blood, living on the edge. V is Vergil. He carries the same blood, the same demonic heritage. But unlike Vergil, his body is frail, constantly on the verge of collapse. He leans on his familiars for combat, yet he can't rely on them entirely. Only he can land the finishing blow. So despite having demons fighting on his behalf, he's still forced to put himself at risk. His existence is a constant tightrope walk between survival and destruction. Split myself in two, death is all around. This directly references Vergil's choice to split himself, creating V and Urizen. In doing so, he unleashed another apocalypse. The chaos surrounding him is a direct result of his actions, and now the world faces the consequences. Summoning the power, drag myself through pain. This encapsulates how V fights, summoning his demon familiars to keep himself alive. But this power comes at a cost. His very existence is painful, his body deteriorating the longer he remains separated from Urizen. Every battle drags him closer to death, yet he has no choice but to keep dragging himself forward. Blood spills, off of me and onto you. This parallels the earlier line, sparks fly off of me and onto you. But this time, it's blood. The violence isn't just a spectacle anymore, it has consequences. V isn't just dealing out damage, he's taking it, bleeding in the process. It reinforces the idea that this struggle is personal, his survival coming at a real cost. The verse then loops back to the theme of survival, both sides locked in a battle where life and death are the only options. And the last lines for us to discuss, Crimson Cloud, Evening Sky. I believe this is a reference to Mundus, who manifests as a crimson cloud in the sky, the one who caused everything. If Bury the Light is a declaration of power, then Crimson Cloud is a declaration of honesty. It is not the power fantasy Vergil would rather be remembered for. It's chaotic, it's desperate, it's human. Devil Trigger, an empowering display of energetic confidence, mirrors Nero's acceptance of his demonic heritage and acknowledgement of its consequences. The song opens with "I'll endure the exile," a declaration of Nero's resolve. He accepts the consequences of his power in a world that rejects it. But rather than breaking under the pressure, he chooses to push forward. From here, the song shifts into the raw experience of living with his power. The darkness of night falls around my soul, and the hunter within loses control. Gotta let it out, gotta let it out. Gotta let it out, gotta let it out. This demon inside has a hold of me, clenching its power, trying to break free. Gotta let it out, gotta let it out. Gotta let it out, gotta let it out. Nero grew up in a religious society that feared demons. As an orphaned boy with no real guidance, he had to figure things out on his own. Hiding his powers became second nature. He knew the social consequences could be severe, but after making his vow in the intro, the rest of the song embraces release. This is a thriving Nero, no longer holding himself back. Move fast, baby, don't be slow. Step aside, reload, time to go. This line sets up the fast-paced, relentless action that Devil May Cry is known for. I can't seem to control all this rage that's inside me. He's finally unleashing what he kept restrained for so long. And he has plenty of reasons to be angry. Anger from abandonment, religious manipulation, the loss of his adoptive brother, and a deadbeat father. All for the crime of being born. Pulling shots, aiming dots, yeah, I don't miss. Branded by fire, born in the abyss. Nero is a pretty cracked shot, so the confidence is warranted. But it might surprise you just how significant his gun actually is. For one, it's a custom design, built by his own hands. More importantly, it's seen as an affront to everything the Order stands for. They believe a true knight should embody Sparta's image, and that means wielding a sword. The most righteous of weapons, in their eyes. But Nero, being a more practical person, never agreed with that idea. He saw it as a pointless handicap in the battle against evil. So his confident gunplay continues the theme of Nero staying true to himself, unshackled by the societal restraints around him. Fire and abyss used together evokes some dark imagery. I imagine this refers to his demonic heritage. In Devil May Cry 4, his pseudo-devil trigger awakened in a blaze of blue flames. This line reinforces that his demon blood has always been a part of him, whether he recognized it or not. Red hot temper, I just can't resist. All this vengeance inside me. Nero isn't like Dante. He takes things more seriously and, especially in DMC4, can have a bit of a temper. Vengeance is not unfamiliar to him. He wanted vengeance on the church for kidnapping Kyrie. He wanted vengeance on the man who stole his arm, not knowing it was Vergil at the time. Nero has a lot of anger to work through now that he's not holding back. All of these thoughts running through my head. Arms on fire, veins burning red. Frustration is getting bigger. Bang, bang, bang. Pull my devil trigger. Nero has always been left in the dark about himself. In DMC4, he had no idea why he was different, why he was abandoned, why his arm is a blasphemous curse. And just when he finally found some stability in DMC5, his arm, along with the devil arm inside it, was stolen, sparking even more questions. Why did someone just try to disable him? Why is the world suddenly ending? Did Dante really have to call him dead weight? And why is the person responsible his own father? With so many unanswered questions, it's no wonder his thoughts are racing. But instead of leaving him lost, that confusion ignites his anger. And that anger fuels his devil trigger, driving him to take action. Embrace the darkness that's within me. No hiding in the shadows anymore. When this wickedness consumes me, nothing can save you, and there's no way out. Nero is no longer conflicted about his origin. He has no reason to hide. He's confident in his ability to stay true to his values, even as he unleashes the wickedness within. Unlike Dante, Nero embraces his heritage with pride. It's a direct callback to the vow that first made him embrace himself fully, for a cause greater than himself. I'm a wildfire you won't tame. Igniting my temper can't put out my flame. There's no way to contain this storm swelling inside me. I'm a bomb you can't defuse. Might just accept you're gonna lose. Can't turn down, I refuse to hold back anymore. These lines capture Nero's emotional buildup throughout the games, especially in DMC5, where he has something to prove but keeps getting pushed back. Every setback fuels his frustration, but he only grows stronger because of it. The imagery of a storm and a bomb is fitting. Nero is stubborn to the core, like the timer of a bomb or the wind patterns of an oncoming storm. Once he sets his mind to something, there's no stopping him. All of these voices inside of my head, blinding my sight in a curtain of red. Frustration is getting bigger. Bang, bang, bang. Pull my devil trigger. Nero has faced setbacks, but what makes them even more frustrating is the way people around him try to push him out of the fight, despite the fact that he has every right to be involved. All of these voices feeding doubt into him only makes his frustration swell, until he's blinded by anger, both metaphorically and literally. His rage drives him to charge at Urizen alone, step between Dante and Vergil's fight, and even land a satisfying backhand on Dante when he tries to dismiss him again. And as his Devil Trigger fully awakens, that anger manifests physically, his eyes glowing a fierce reddish orange, proving that no one can hold him back anymore. When the night ends, it's not over. This line makes me recall Bury the Light. Disappear into the night, a reflection of Vergil's tendency to keep moving, never setting down roots. But this time, Nero won't let him just walk away. Vergil might be gone when the night ends, but Nero still exists. He won't be ignored. We fight through to get closer. Perfectly encapsulates Nero's struggle to break through to both Dante and, more importantly, Vergil. This family only seems to communicate through battle, and Nero is throwing himself straight into the fire. Like a silver bullet piercing through, I throw myself into you. In fiction, silver bullets are a weapon against supernatural beings. Ordinary bullets wouldn't pierce through a demon, but Nero isn't ordinary. He is the silver bullet, the one thing capable of getting through to these devils. Unlike Vergil, Nero sees his power as a tool to protect, in this case, protecting his family from themselves. Also, a remix of this very song, Silver Bullet, plays during his fight with Vergil, so this has to be the connection. And the song concludes with the same catchy pre-chorus we all love. Devil Trigger is about freedom from fear and the embrace of authenticity, a declaration of Nero's refusal to reject who he is. At first glance, these songs might seem like just high-energy battle anthems, and they certainly can be enjoyed that way. Not every song needs to be dissected in an MLA assignment. But as we've seen time and time again on this channel, there's a lot of thought put into this series to make it resonate with its audience, and that includes the music. Each song is carefully crafted to align with the characters' journeys, while touching on universal human themes, from confusion and anger to defiance and self-acceptance. The genre fits perfectly with these themes and with the series as a whole. The emotions driving these characters are just as intense as the hack-and-slash action Devil May Cry is known for. Extreme music provides a cathartic release for these powerful feelings. Far from inciting aggression, these songs foster a sense of empowerment that can be transformative. Whether you're fighting literal demons or the metaphorical ones in your life, it doesn't promote suppressing emotions, but rather helps listeners find a release and regain control. Of course, music is no substitute for therapy or actions that can lead to real-world change, but playing music that makes us feel good is always within our power. So call it hyperbole if you want, but I truly believe Devil May Cry music can save your life. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a bit of a passion project. I already covered these songs in a short series, but there was just too much left out for me not to come back and give them the proper attention. If you enjoyed this, then like the video and subscribe for more. If you want to support me directly, you can find that link with all the others in the description. If you've got more time to kill, maybe you'd be interested in exploring the mindset behind the weapons of Monster Hunter. I've also done some psychological deep dives on Devil May Cry characters if you're a fan. Those were very old videos and I wasn't as good at editing as I am now, so keep that in mind. Or maybe you might be curious about the battle stances of Kingdom Hearts characters and their historical counterparts. And as always, my people, thank you for watching.